I had been delivering food for over 2 years at the time, and in all that experience I had seen a lot: drunk customers yelling at me, houses with aggressive dogs, streets so dark you couldn't see your own hand in front of your face. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared me for what happened on that Thursday night in late October. It was the kind of night where the wind seemed to seep through every layer of clothing, where the streetlights flickered like they were on the edge of burning out, and where the entire world felt just slightly off, like reality had gone soft around the edges. I was finishing my last few deliveries before calling it a night, already fantasizing about my bed, when a new order popped up on my app. A small, medium pizza with garlic knots. The delivery location was about 15 minutes away, not far, not weird, just the way the app routed me made my stomach twist. The GPS sent me down a series of back streets I had never noticed before, winding past cracked sidewalks, abandoned lots, and rows of houses that looked like they hadn't seen paint in decades. The wind howled through the empty streets, and I had to squint through the flickering orange glow of the streetlights. Every few minutes, my headlights caught glimpses of shadows moving just at the edge of the light, like the darkness itself was watching me. I shrugged it off. Tiredness was probably getting to me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. After nearly 20 minutes of winding through streets that seemed to go nowhere, I finally arrived at the house. Or at least, what I assumed was the house. At first glance, it was just another old, modest home on a quiet street, but something about it made my stomach knot. The windows were covered in thick, heavy curtains that blocked almost all light, and the front porch had a dim glow from a single lamp that flickered like it was about to die. The house felt heavy, like it was holding its breath, and I couldn't tell whether it wanted me there or wanted me gone. I parked the car and grabbed the bag from the back seat. My footsteps crunched on the gravel driveway, loud against the quiet night. I reached the front door and knocked once, then twice. Nothing. I called out, "Pizza delivery!" My voice sounded absurdly loud, echoing strangely in the empty street. Then I heard it, a faint rustling from inside. My heart jumped. The door creaked open slightly, and I froze. The hallway beyond was dark, shadowed, but there was no one in sight. I squinted through the crack, my flashlight cutting a thin line across the floorboards. And then I heard it, soft and almost inaudible. "Leave it on the porch and go." It sounded human, but not quite. The voice was distant, echoing as if it were underwater, and yet it was everywhere at once, vibrating in my chest more than my ears. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. My hands shook as I set the bag down carefully on the porch. The wind, which had been blowing moments ago, stopped completely. The air felt dense, like I had walked into a wall. I took a step back, and that's when the door started to close. Slowly, smoothly, without a sound except for the faint scrape of the old wood against the frame. I blinked. The wind was dead calm. That door should not have been able to move on its own. My mind raced. Maybe it was a trick of the wind, maybe the latch was loose. But no, that was impossible. I backed away, reaching for my phone, and that's when the app buzzed. Order canceled by customer. I stared at the screen, confused. The order had been active seconds ago, and now it said it didn't exist. I turned back to the porch, and the food bag was gone, just gone. Not tipped over, not ripped open, just vanished. I spun around, looking for someone, anyone, but the street was empty. The house stood there, unchanged, but somehow different, older, darker, abandoned, as if it had never been lived in at all. I didn't wait another second. I jumped into my car and drove away, my hands trembling on the wheel. The rearview mirror reflected the streetlights, the empty road, and nothing else. But I knew what I had seen. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe someone had stolen the food while I wasn't looking. Maybe my GPS glitched and sent me somewhere that didn't exist. But deep down, I knew none of that explained the house, the voice, the door, or the vanished food. I called my friend Jake, who also worked as a delivery driver, and described the location. "You're tired, man. You probably dozed off while driving and imagined it," he said. But I knew I wasn't tired. I'd been wide awake. I'd been scared. The next night, I went back. Curiosity and maybe stupidity had gotten the better of me. I drove the same route, but when I reached where the house should have been, there was nothing. No house, no porch, no faint light, just a patch of overgrown grass, the cracked road stretching on. I circled the area, my headlights cutting through the darkness, but there was no sign that a house had ever been there. It was as if it had never existed. I started asking around. No one I spoke to remembered a house on that street. The city records didn't show it. Google Maps didn't have it. Nothing. And the weirdest part? I kept dreaming about it. Every night, I'd see that porch, the flickering lamp, and hear the voice whispering to leave. Sometimes I woke up in the middle of the night, convinced I had set the bag down on that porch myself. Weeks went by. I avoided delivering in that area. I told myself it was over. But even months later, the memory lingers. I drive down quiet streets and feel the same weight in the air. Sometimes I see a flicker in a window and wonder if the house is still out there, waiting for someone else to deliver food, to hear the voice, to leave the bag, and never see it again. And that's the thing. Some places, some things, they aren't supposed to be found. Some deliveries aren't meant to be completed. And some houses just vanish, leaving you with the feeling that you narrowly escaped something you weren't meant to understand. I still deliver food, of course. I have bills to pay. But I never take routes that feel too quiet, too remote. And sometimes when the GPS glitches or when I see a house with thick curtains and a dim light flickering inside, I slow down, I stare, and I wonder if it's waiting. Because I know, without a doubt, that the vanishing house is still out there, waiting for the next delivery driver, waiting for the next bag of food, and maybe waiting for me. I've been delivering food for a few years now, mostly late-night orders. You get used to strange requests, rude customers, and sketchy neighborhoods, but nothing prepares you for what happened on that icy night in February. It was one of those nights where the snow comes down thick and fast, coating the streets in white, muting every sound. The roads were slick, and the few streetlights that were working cast long, distorted shadows that made the world look like a nightmare painting. I had already been on the road for hours, my car heater running constantly, my hands tight on the wheel, trying not to drift off in the warmth. My last order of the night popped up around 11:47 p.m. It was a small cottage at the edge of town, almost rural. The app estimated a 20-minute drive, but I knew from experience that this part of town could take much longer in the snow. I accepted the order, grabbed the hot bag from the back seat, and began the drive. At first, it was uneventful, just the soft hum of the tires on wet snow and the occasional gust of wind rattling the wipers. But the further I drove, the quieter it got. No cars, no sounds of people, just the eerie whisper of the wind and the soft crunch of snow under my tires. Every now and then, the GPS would reroute me down narrower roads, and my headlights would catch glimpses of snow-covered trees that looked almost like human figures. I started to feel uneasy, not the usual late-night delivery nervousness, but something heavier, colder, something that made my skin crawl. I told myself it was just the storm, my imagination running wild, and that I'd laugh about it later when I was warm in bed. I finally saw the house, a small, dark cottage sitting back from the road, almost swallowed by the snowdrifts. At first it looked empty, but then I saw it, a man standing at the upstairs window. He was tall, thin, wearing what looked like an old coat, but his face, I couldn't see it clearly. He didn't move when I waved, didn't even blink. He just stood there, watching me. I swallowed hard. Maybe it was the customer, maybe a family member, but something about the way he was standing, completely still, made my stomach knot. I reached for my phone and texted the customer through the app, asking if they were home. No reply. I called. No answer. I parked a few feet from the driveway and grabbed the bag. The snow was knee-deep in places, and my boots sank with every step, making a loud, wet squelch that echoed unnaturally in the silent night. I walked toward the door, trying to ignore the man at the window. The porch light was off, which seemed strange for a customer expecting a delivery. I knocked. Nothing. I rang the doorbell. Still nothing. My stomach sank. Then I heard it, a faint, scratching sound from the window above. Not the man moving, but the window itself, like fingernails scraping against the glass. I froze, my breath fogging in the freezing air. "Hello," I called, my voice shaky. "Pizza delivery." The window flung open abruptly, almost like it had been pulled back by a gust of wind, and the man was gone. I blinked, but he didn't reappear. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I stepped back, thinking maybe I imagined it, But the scratching continued, fainter, coming from the attic maybe, or somewhere I couldn't see. I debated leaving the bag on the porch and running, but something in me compelled me to approach the door. I knocked again, louder this time. The scratching stopped. The house was silent, utterly silent, except for the storm outside. I could see my own reflection in the glass of the front window. For a moment I thought I saw movement behind me, another figure standing in the snow, but when I turned, nothing was there. I set the bag down on the porch and started to back away slowly. That's when the front door opened. Slowly, quietly. I didn't hear anyone move, didn't see anyone step out. The door just creaked open, wide enough for someone to walk through, but the porch was empty. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my feet felt glued to the snow. Then, from the second-story window, I saw him again. The man. He wasn't looking at me anymore. He was looking down at the bag. And then, he smiled. Or at least, I think it was a smile. His face shifted in a way that shouldn't have been possible, stretching unnaturally. His eyes, they glowed faintly, just enough for me to see, like moonlight reflecting off ice. I stumbled back, tripping over the snow, my hands fumbling for the car keys. The man disappeared from the window. When I looked again, the door that had been open was now wide shut. I ran to the car, got in, and slammed the door, locking it instantly. My hands shook so violently I could barely start the engine. As I drove away, I kept glancing at the rearview mirror, expecting to see the man standing in the snow, watching me. But the road behind was empty, silent, and the cottage seemed to vanish in the snowstorm. I swear to this day that I turned the corner, looked back, and the house wasn't there anymore. Just an empty lot, snow piled high, nothing resembling the cottage I had just delivered to. The next morning, I tried calling the customer again. No answer. I checked the address. My GPS had recorded it correctly. But the street layout didn't match what I remembered. There were only a few sparse houses scattered along the road, nothing like the cozy two-story cottage I had approached. I started asking neighbors, people who lived in the area. None of them had ever seen the house. Some of them didn't even recognize the street name I gave. One elderly woman looked at me, wide-eyed, and said, "There hasn't been a house there for decades, just snow-covered land and old trees." I thought about reporting it to the company, but I didn't. Who would believe me? A food delivery driver claiming a house appeared out of nowhere in the middle of a blizzard? It sounded insane, even to me. For weeks, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every late-night delivery, every empty window, every flicker of movement in the snow made my heart jump. I started taking different routes, avoiding quiet streets, avoiding old cottages tucked into the woods. Months later, I was working another late shift. Snow had returned, light at first, dusting the roads. I turned onto a back road I hadn't taken in a while and froze. In the distance, I saw it, the same cottage, sitting there exactly as I remembered, the light flickering in the upstairs window, the door quiet and waiting. My stomach sank. I wanted to leave, to turn around, but curiosity, stupid, dangerous curiosity, kept me there. The man was in the window, watching. I didn't stop. I didn't move closer. I drove past slowly, trying to act normal, trying to tell myself it was a trick of the snow, a reflection of the streetlight. But I knew it wasn't. I knew that house didn't belong there, that the man was not human, and that he was waiting. Waiting for the next person foolish enough to walk up the porch. I've never delivered to that area again. I quit taking late-night orders in rural zones. Even now, years later, when I see a snow-covered house from a distance, I get chills. I can still see the faint glow from that upstairs window. I can still feel those eyes on me, watching. And sometimes, just sometimes, when the wind howls and the snow drifts in strange ways, I swear I hear the faint scratching of fingernails against glass. I don't know what that man was. I don't know what that house was. All I know is that there are places you don't go, things you don't look at, and doors you don't knock on. And that night in the snow delivering a simple pizza, I found one of them. I never went back, and I never will. I had been doing food delivery for just over a year at this point. Nights were always the worst. Roads were empty, customers were scarce, and the city took on this strange, muted quality that made even familiar streets feel foreign. I'd seen weird things before, people opening doors in pajamas at 2 a.m., strange shadows flickering in alleys, dogs barking at nothing. but nothing I'd ever seen compared to the night of the silent passenger. It was late February, one of those bitterly cold nights where your breath fogs up the windshield and the snow crunches under your tires. I had just picked up a large order of Chinese food for a customer in a quiet suburban area. The app estimated 25 minutes, but given the snow and traffic, I knew it would be closer to 40. I was driving down a particularly dark street when I noticed something unusual. I had my rearview mirror angled for the road behind me as usual, and I thought I saw a movement in the back seat. My car was a small sedan, and I usually drove alone. At first I thought it was a shadow from the streetlights flickering through the windows. But then, for a brief second, I swear I saw the silhouette of a person sitting there, looking at me. I froze, my hand tightening on the steering wheel. The streets were empty. My phone buzzed with the delivery details, and I glanced down to see the customer's address. When I looked back, the back seat was empty. I shook my head, telling myself it was just fatigue. I'd been on the road for hours. My brain was probably playing tricks on me. I continued driving, but I couldn't shake the feeling. Something was wrong. Every time I glanced in the rearview mirror, I thought I saw a shadow shifting, as if someone or something was leaning closer to me. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. My fingers drummed nervously on the steering wheel, and I told myself over and over, "It's fine. You're imagining it, it's fine." I reached a small intersection and slowed at the red light. The snow was falling steadily now, each flake visible in the headlights. That's when I heard it, a faint whisper, just behind me, almost inaudible. I froze mid-breath. It sounded like someone was calling my name, softly from the back seat. I spun around in the driver's seat, heart pounding, and the back seat was empty. There was no one there. I leaned forward, peering into the darkness. My car felt impossibly cold, like the heat had shut off, and the whisper came again, clearer this time, almost right in my ear. "Are you going to deliver it?" I jumped and slammed my foot on the gas. My car fishtailed slightly on the icy road, and I cursed at myself. "It's just the wind, it's just the cold, it's nothing," I told myself. But deep down, I knew it wasn't nothing. I kept driving, eyes darting to every shadow. Every time I glanced at the rearview mirror, I felt that same presence. I tried talking to it, nervously, joking to myself. "Okay, if you're back there, I'm not crazy. Let's just chill until I finish this delivery." Nothing. Silence. Then a brief movement, a flicker of a figure in the corner of my vision, gone as soon as I tried to look directly at it. The roads eventually led me to the customer's house, a small, single-story suburban home, one of those that looks ordinary in daylight but takes on a strange personality at night. I parked, grabbed the food, and stepped out into the snow. My breath came out in ragged clouds, and the world was eerily quiet, the only sound my boots crunching against the frozen ground. I approached the door, noticing for the first time the front window was slightly cracked. It was dark inside, but I could see a faint movement near the curtains. I rang the bell, and the door creaked open slowly. No one was there. I stepped forward, holding the bag in front of me, and called out, "Delivery for?" My voice shook. Nothing. I set the bag down on the porch and took a cautious step back. That's when I heard it again, the whisper soft right behind me. "Don't leave me." I spun around, expecting to see someone hiding, maybe a child, maybe a prankster. But the yard was empty. No footprints in the freshly fallen snow, no signs that anyone had been there. Only my own prints leading to the porch. I grabbed the bag and backed toward my car, deciding to leave it on the doorstep and go. But then the whisper became louder, more insistent. "Take me with you." I froze. That's when I noticed the passenger seat. The figure, tall, thin, featureless, was sitting there now, perfectly still, looking at me with hollow, glowing eyes. I swear it wasn't human. Its presence radiated cold, an unnatural chill that seeped into my bones. I stumbled back, slipping on the ice, and scrambled to my car. The figure didn't move, it just watched. I jumped in, locked the doors, and started the engine. The heat still didn't work. My hands shook violently as I glanced at the seat, empty again. For a brief, terrifying moment, I thought I saw it leaning closer, its face inches from mine, whispering words I couldn't hear but understood perfectly. "Deliver it. Or else." I sped off, my tires slipping on the snow, my headlights cutting through the dark. Every mirror, every shadow seemed alive. At one point, I glanced at the rearview mirror and saw the faint outline of a hand on the back window, pressing against it, fading as I drove faster. I finally reached a main road, lit with streetlights, and the figure disappeared completely. The car felt warm again, the whispering stopped, and I tried to convince myself it was all in my head. Exhaustion, isolation, and stress playing tricks. But I knew the truth. Whatever had been in my car wasn't human, and it hadn't left willingly. Weeks went by. I stopped delivering to that area. I avoided late-night orders when possible. But sometimes, late at night, I swear I see a shadow in the passenger seat when I'm alone. My car, even now, feels colder than it should, and I can hear the faintest whisper in my ear. Deliver it. I never found out what it wanted, or why it appeared that night. All I know is that if you're driving alone, delivering food in the middle of a storm, and something seems off, it probably is. Some passengers aren't meant to be seen, and some deliveries aren't meant to be completed. Even now, years later, I refuse to drive that route at night. I still deliver food, but I always check the back seat before starting the car. And sometimes, just sometimes, when I glance into the passenger seat, I think I see it, watching, waiting, patient as ever for the next delivery. I don't know who or what it was, but I know one thing for certain. If it ever appears again, I won't hesitate. I'll drive straight past, never looking back, because some deliveries come with a price you're not ready to pay.